In this movie, I'll show you how to modify the settings associated with an adjustment layer step because it's handled in a really strange manner. And then we'll also introduce a save as operation. I've gone ahead and saved an intermediate version of this image for those of you who are working along with me. And it helps to make a point, which is as you're recording an action, you do not want to save your steps along with the image. That's just a bad idea. It's always a better idea to save whatever work you're doing where the action is concerned by choosing the Save As command and giving the file either a different name or saving it to a different location, both of which I did. All right, now I neglected to play back this step right here, deleting the filter mask. So I'll just go ahead and control double click on it. That's a command double click on a Mac, and you can see that the filter mask goes away. Now, you might figure the way to modify your adjustment layer would be to double-click on Make Adjustment Layer. And what that does, if you double-click, is it brings up the New Layer dialog box. And notice you're back in recording mode, so the Actions panel is paying attention to what you're doing. You would probably think, gosh, that's a great name. I don't need to change it, so I'll just go ahead and click OK. And then up comes the Curves dialog box, as opposed to the Properties panel. And notice I'll just make some radical changes here, something I would never do, and I'll click OK. And even though that has generated a new adjustment layer called Compensation that's doing terrible things to my image, if I twirl open this Make Adjustment Layer step that I just modified, it doesn't have any of the settings associated with it. And sure enough, if I go ahead and delete that compensation layer by pressing the backspace key here on the PC or the delete key on the Mac, and then I control double click on this step, again, that's a command double click on a Mac, it's an empty adjustment layer. It's not doing anything. And I lost my name as well, which is a big pain in the neck. So here's how we solve for that. I'll go ahead and press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac once again in order to get rid of that layer. Then I'll take this step, Make Adjustment Layer, that I messed up, and I'll just drag it and drop it into the trash can. And I'll twirl open For Office Printer, the action that has that same step in it, a good version of the step. Notice if I twirl it open, it's got the name right there, so everything's hunky-dory. So I'll go ahead and twirl it close, press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, and drag that step and drop it to this location right there, second from the end. And thanks to the fact I press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, that creates a copy of that step as opposed to just moving it. Now I'll twirl For Office Printer back closed. And here's what you do. Go ahead and control double click or command double click on the Mac on that step in order to generate the adjustment layer, even though it doesn't have anything going on. And then double click on the next step, Set Current Adjustment Layer, in order to bring up, once again, the Curves dialog box, go figure, complete with our previously applied settings. Now I'll press the plus key a couple of times in order to advance to this point right there. The input value is 30 and the output is 40. Click in the output value and press Shift up arrow in order to take it up to 50 so that we're further brightening the shadows inside the image, and then click OK. Now, you may wonder, why am I doing this? And the reason is I'm trying to create an action that's going to work for pre-press. And my experience is that images have a habit of darkening like crazy during the pre-press process thanks to dot gain. Now, color purists will tell you you're not supposed to do that kind of thing. But I've created a lot of documents. I've written 80 books. I did the graphics for all of them, so I have copious experience. And it's just possible I know what I'm talking about after all this time. So it's a good step, and I'm going to go with it. Now I want to introduce a Save As operation so that everything I've done is saved under a different file name, just in case I want to come back and make modifications later. So I'll click on a Record button while the entire action is selected. That way the new step will appear at the bottom of the list. And then I'll go up to the File menu and choose the Save As command. And again, if you're working along with me, you want to navigate to this subfolder right here called RGB Layers, which doesn't have anything in it. It's just a placeholder for you. And I'll go ahead and leave my file name set to what it is. We definitely want the format to be PSD. The Layers checkbox should be turned on, as should the ICC profile. Then go ahead and click the Save button in order to save the image to that subfolder, and click the Stop button to stop recording the action. All right, now let's make sure everything's working on a different image. So I'll go up to the File menu and choose Browse and Bridge to switch over to Bridge. And then I'll grab any old image, let's say Les Beaux de Provence.psd. And so I'll go ahead and open that guy up, zoom in as well, just so I can see some of the details here. And I'll click on Convert for Prepress in order to select that action, and then I'll just click the Play button in order to play off the entire thing. And after playing the action, it looks like my reduce noise and smart sharpen settings are holding up pretty well. The image still has the same name, so it's hard to tell whether it got saved out properly, which is why I'll just go ahead and switch back to Bridge by choosing that command again. And then I'll navigate to the RGB layers folder, and sure enough, I've got the new Les Beaux de Provence.psd file, as well as that file called My Changes So Far. Now, I want to stress that I'm not giving you these files. Your RGB layers folder will be entirely empty unless you've performed these steps along with me. So there you have it. That's how you modify the settings associated with an adjustment layer, as well as introduce a save as operation when recording actions inside Photoshop.